Good morning to all you great souls. I will start with a reading from Whispers from Eternity, Yogananda's book of prayer demands and poems. This is entitled, Demand Not to be Enslaved by the Ego or by Ego-Centered Passivity. I want to use my own will, but guide it ever, Father, toward the golden paradise of all fulfillment. For I would be infinity's smiling child, confident of being imprisoned, no longer behind bars of fruitless desire and withered hopes. I would break the shameful cords of lethargy that have presumed to hold me and step fearlessly into freedom. Released, I now blaze my way through forests of every limitation and delusion. Oh, my little vain ego may strut proudly saying, behold my glory, worship me. But I will look through its transparent form and behold thine unimaginable beauty, clothed in the subtle form of the whole universe. The silence-tuned hearing of my soul will ignore that tiny boasting masquerader, my little self impersonating thee, and will listen rapturously to the wind-borne fragrant music of thine own matchless voice, whispering across the ages, I am he. So our topic today, as Nanda Devi read, is self-reliance versus self-reliance. Reliance on our little self versus reliance on our big self when we realize our continuing to refine our awareness of God's presence within us. Self-reliance in America is quite strong, starting when we first came across the ocean, getting our independence from England. This idea that, of course, I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to do it with my own two hands. These are my ideas. I don't need anybody's help. I got this. I remember growing up going to the grocery store and somebody would drop their groceries. And I don't know if this is just common where I was from, but you go to help and they say, no, I don't need any help. I don't know if that's common other places, but just that sense, I'm going to do it myself. Or this was my idea. This is my idea and it's a good idea. There is a story of this rabbit and a beaver. And the rabbit and the beaver were at the bottom of Hoover Dam looking up at its magnificence. And the rabbit asked the beaver, did you build this? And the beaver said, no, but it was based on an idea of mine. But the question is, where did the beaver get his idea? When I first started studying these teachings of self-realization, I started getting Yogananda's lessons through his organization, Self-Realization Fellowship. And at the time, others would see the letter, the envelope that said self-realization, and they immediately thought, you think you're going to do it all by yourself without God's help. And at the time, I couldn't really explain it, but I was thinking, it's very interesting. Yogananda's organization in India is called Yogoda Satsanga Society. He didn't call it that here. He called it self-realization. And I wonder if he was always trying to meet us where we are. And as a culture, this self-reliant attitude, he's like, I'm going to work with that. And so even when he was doing his spiritual campaigns in the 1920s and 1930s, he had topics such as how to have everlasting youth, the science of success, how to overcome nervousness, the art of getting what you want. So those are pretty good topics for those who have a lot of self-interest, right? And of course, when he would be sharing, he would give techniques and teachings for how people could get what they wanted. But of course, the meat of his teachings were saying, yes, this is what you want, but actually what you're looking for is something so much deeper. And really what he was giving people was how, for us, as the reading said, as Nanda Devi was reading, How do we as a branch make sure we have that constant connection with the vine? And so that sap is constantly flowing. So in our lives, the branch does not kind of wither away. Now, with this topic that he gave, the art of getting what you want, it implies creativity is involved, right? And usually we have an idea and we think that was my idea, just like the beaver had an idea. And so, but where does that idea come from? Something we've heard again and again that's in the autobiography of a yogi is that thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. A truth cannot be created, it can only be perceived. Think about that when you say, I had a good idea. Recently, my wife and I were in Lourdes, France, and while we're over there, I started to think about something that we had to do for spiritual renew retreat. And my friend Dion and I were asked to do a Thursday morning event, something that was different, a change of pace for the week. And when I was in Lourdes, I thought it would be wonderful to do something where we can highlight the temples that we have here at Ananda Village. But quickly I dismissed that from my mind. I thought this would be a logistical nightmare. So once I first checked my emails, I got an email from Dion, different continent. He had the same thought. Okay, thoughts are universally rooted, and it worked out pretty well. Interestingly enough, scientists like Einstein, Darwin, when they would have the theory of relativity or about evolution, they weren't the only ones having that idea at the same time. Thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. A truth cannot be created, it only can be perceived. Even Devi, Nayaswami Devi here at Ananda, she once had an idea for like kind of a community project several years ago. And afterwards I went up to her and I said, Devi, that's such a wonderful idea. She said, yes, isn't it a wonderful idea? But there was no sense of, it was my idea. And how much more if we try to consciously hold up our consciousness that, you know, the ideas that we have are not only our own, and they're not limited to just the circumference of our cranium. And if we think there's so much more that we can tap into, and then that we don't have to do it alone with this American independent spirit, I'm going to do it, it's my ideas, I got to fix it myself. But by opening and being open and tuning in, being receptive, you know, there's so much more that can be given to us if we are open really to receive. And this idea of doing our own ourselves for creative things and ideas, it also works the other way when we have those thoughts about ourselves that maybe aren't so pleasant. That's like when our monkey mind plays in and thinks, why do I feel this way? Why are my thoughts keep going in circles? The other day I woke up, and this always happens right before I give a Sunday service, that I need to learn some sort of lesson. And so the other morning I woke up, and it was just like missiles were going off in my mind. And as the moment I opened my eyes, I thought of something that happened earlier in the week, and it was unbelievably huge in my consciousness. I felt like I was going to drown in the pain of it, and I just couldn't get out of it. It was just coming everywhere. It's like Yogananda said, if you take a blade of grass outside, which is very small, and you hold it very close to you, it looks very big, doesn't it? But in reality, it's very small. And so this experience that happened was extremely small, but still, I just didn't know. I was trying to use my rational mind to get out of it. I was trying to think my way out of it. But so often we focus too much on the details in life. And the details is when we get into trouble, isn't it? But when we can focus on the flow of energy more so, you know, the details kind of work themselves out more. And so I was reminded of a technique that I learned from our good friend, Nayaswami Anandi Cornell. A few years ago, I was going through a difficult situation with somebody, and I didn't know how to work it with it. And she recently had an experience of a story that she shared with me, and it was so It's so vivid and it's just so wonderful. Maybe it'll help for you too. And at her and Bharat's house, a woodpecker started causing issues. And if you've ever had a woodpecker on your house, on a wooden siding, they can be quite loud and quite annoying. It was for weeks. And it just wouldn't stop. You know, a little bit it happens in the background, they stop, they fly away. But this was this constant pecking. So not only does it damage the house, but it's going to get on your nerves. So they would go out and they would shoo the woodpecker away, but it would just fly in a tree and instantly fly back. And so Anandi said, after weeks, I had to try something else. So I just prayed to the woodpecker, and I just surrounded the woodpecker in light. And almost immediately, the woodpecking stopped. And it just shows you, and so that's a technique that I use as well for when I was going through what I went through earlier this week. I just surrounded it in light, and it was like it was gone. Now, I surrounded it in light, and I immediately started moving my energy to start the day. I didn't just stay in bed and keep thinking about it, but I just surrounded it in light, and it just started moving. And yesterday I was trying to think what that issue was. I can't even think of it, what it was. Has that ever happened to you? Right? And so the more we can offer ourselves into that greater flow of just blessing things with light, bless the situation with light, see how it might change your life. So this is something I read just the other day on Facebook. It's from a poem that I grew up with at my house that both of my sisters really loved. It's called the Desiderata. And I only remember like the first few lines. It said, "Go placidly amidst the noise and haste," and something like, "Remember what peace there is in silence." But I read the whole thing for the first time. And this is a line that really caught my attention. And this is exactly what I was doing. "Do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness." Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. And somebody at Spiritual Renewal Week was saying, I think it was Sai Ganesh, that he was on the plane going to India, and he was having a conversation with somebody he was having an issue with, and he just was having this imaginary conversation. And we just kept going back and forth. And then while he was in India, the whole thing just washed away. But so Yogananda said, energy can free us or it can bind us, depending on how we use it. The more you do what your mind tells you, the more you become a slave. So how do we get out of our mind so we're not just always doing what it tells us, like it's pecking us with our mind going back and forth, like this is the reality. We're not just seeing it so up close like a blade of grass, but we're looking at it from a larger reality. There's the story in ancient Greek mythology of Theseus and the Minotaur. And Theseus went to the island of Crete to slay the Minotaur. And the Minotaur was half man, half beast. And the Minotaur was in charge of this, like the guardian of this great labyrinth. And labyrinths, once you get in, it's very difficult, it's impossible to get out of them. And so Theseus knew that he had to go into the labyrinth to slay the Minotaur. And the only thing that he could do to make sure he got out was he had a little ball of twine. And he put the twine at the entrance, and just as he went through looking for the Minotaur, he just held that string behind him so that after he was able to slay the Minotaur, which he did, he was able to just simply retrace back out to the entrance into freedom. And so the Minotaur represents our lower natures. The labyrinth represents our mind. And how do we get out of our mind? And Yogananda said that string represents the Guru's grace. that when we hold on to that string of the Guru, that the Guru will help us get out of our mind, which it's very difficult to get out of, as we know. And now you might be saying, well, I'm new to Ananda, I'm not on this path, I'm not interested in a Guru, or maybe Jesus is my Guru, is my Savior. But the thing is, there's so many different ways that we can use these teachings, universal spiritual teachings, to start to get out of the labyrinth of our minds. And maybe the Guru concept is something you're new to, you're not used to it. Or even if you are a disciple, I'm saying, I've been a disciple for years, how do I get out of it? And sometimes we just got to start with the basics and not try and do everything all at once. Just start small and take a step by step. And this story that I'm about to share really helps to illustrate that point. In South India, there was a mystic, a saint named Nagarjuna. And Nagarjuna was, he was Buddhist, or he was Indian, but he was a Buddhist, and he was loved in his town for who he was and his saintliness. And all he had, he didn't even have clothes, all he had was a wooden begging bowl. And so one day, the queen of the town invited him to the palace. And so when he went to the palace, she said, I would like your begging bowl. And instantly, he gave his only possession to her. It didn't mean anything to him. And so she said, I would like this begging bowl because I know who you are. And this begging bowl has your vibrations in it, and I will use these vibrations. It will be my temple in which I can rise spiritually. But in return, I will give you a bowl that is more appropriate for who you are. And she gave him this golden bowl studded with all these diamonds. Now, if he was a normal renunciate, maybe, he would have said, I renounce everything, and he wouldn't have accepted it. But he wasn't a normal renunciate. Golden bowl, wooden bowl, it didn't mean anything. It was all the same. It meant nothing to him. But he accepted it graciously. And so he goes out of the palace, and there's a thief outside. And so this thief saw this naked, saint holding this golden bowl with diamonds and thought, he's got no pockets to put this. So it's going to be very easy to take this and steal this from him. So Nagarjuna walks outside of the outskirts of town, and he goes to this old ancient temple, abandoned, without any doors, without any windows. And the thief said, this is going to be good. When he goes to sleep, I'm just going to hide around here, and then I'll be able to steal it from him. So Nagarjuna goes into the temple, and he knew what was happening. So he thought, well, I'm just going to give him this bowl right away, because that's so I can get some rest. So he just throws the bowl outside. And the thief said, what just happened here? And he picks up the bowl, and he thought, a man who doesn't have anything, who had this precious, expensive bowl, just gave it all away. Something's going on here. And he started to feel a change in his consciousness. And so he goes in to thank the saint. And he said, great soul, thank you for giving me this. And the saint says, it meant nothing to me. I wanted you, I did it, I knew you wanted it, but I wanted you to come in here. And the thief went down and he touched his feet, and he could feel his consciousness start to change. And he said to this saint, how do I change? How can I change quickly? He said, you can do it right now. And the thief said, no, I'm a thief. You don't know who I am. You're not from these parts. People here are afraid of me. I've stolen from many, many people. I'm not a good person. I go into people's house at night, and they're wondering, is he going to come by? Even the treasury, the king's afraid of me. I've stole diamonds from him 3 times. And Nagarjuna said, I understand. But if you want to change now, you can. He said, even though darkness has lived in your consciousness for a long time, you bring in the light once, and the darkness will flee as if it wasn't even there. And the saint and this thief said, I understand. But still, what should I do? Should I stop, being a thief? And then Nagarjuna said, it doesn't matter. He said, what? It doesn't matter if I'm a thief? I've gone to other holy men before, and they said, you need to stop being a thief before I'll get initiated. And Nagarjuna said, they don't know what they're talking about. Just do what you want to do. But all I say is, I'm going to give you something that will help you to realize the light within your soul. Just practice that, but just continue doing what you're going to do. So the thief said, well, I'm going to steal still. He said, that's fine if you're going to steal, but I ask you to watch your breath as you're stealing. If you're going to somebody's house at night, just watch your breath coming in and out. If you go into the palace and there's diamonds there, as you're taking that chest full of diamonds, just watch your breath. So 15 days later, this thief comes back and he said, I don't know what just happened, but every time I was watching my breath, I didn't want to steal. And every time I would go to steal, I couldn't watch my breath. When I finally got to steal the diamonds from the palace, those diamonds, as I was watching my breath, just turned into pebbles. What do? You've put me in quite a predicament because I'm feeling so much stillness and so much peace, but yet this was my profession. And Nagarjuna said, well, it's your choice what you do. Now, if you want that peace, continue watching your breath. If you think diamonds and gold will make you happy, then go for the diamonds and gold. That's your choice. I won't interfere. And so the thief said, I understand. Will you please initiate me? And Nagarjuna said, I already have. In our life, of course, we have a choice. Are we going for the outer gold and diamonds or the inner gold and diamonds? So as we go on this process from little self-realization, little self-reliance to bigger self-reliance, always try and keep in our consciousness that there is a thread that is tying us to something greater. And sometimes it's hard to remember and to feel that thread because we're so busy in the labyrinth of our minds, thinking that the details are important. And maybe they are important. But what's more important is the joy that we're all looking for. Isn't it true? And so now it's a matter of what do we do? What are we going to do next with it? And this reading of the vine is so beautiful, where we are the branches, the Christ consciousness is the vine, God is the husbandman, and God is sometimes going to do a little bit of pruning, and maybe it won't feel so good, but that pruning allows the fruits of deeper wisdom and deeper realization to grow within us. So how do we have to ask ourselves always, in everything we do, in all of our own things, I'm going to do it, is it causing harmony within ourselves and with others? Are we feeling a greater expansion of our consciousness? And is it connecting us to the vine of God's presence within? We all have a choice. Om Guru.
Father, now that I dance in thy name, love I am free. Father, now that I dance in thy name, birds and animals share in my song. All my sorrows, all my merriment, join in music to set hearts aflame. All my sorrows, all my merriment, join in music to set hearts aflame.
I've passed my life as a stranger, Lord, roamed far in foreign lands, far, Lord, far too far. Only he who knows he's far from home, only he, Lord, understands. Only he who knows he's far from home feels the earth and understands. Sometimes a stranger did take me in, then love I thought was near. Love, Lord, where is love? As the winds upon the desert sand whisper hope, then disappear. As soft winds breathe on the desert sand, so love sighs, then disappears. Sometimes a child laughed, and I did pause, and dreamed of joys at home. Joys, Lord, only a dream. For what joy is there without your smile, empty like the ocean foam? For what joy is there without your smile? You're the sea, all else is foam. How long must I be a wanderer, Lord? You know where I belong. You know, Lord, yes, you know. Home is where my Lord's sweet presence is. I've grown tired of strangers' songs. Home is where my Lord's sweet presence is. Bless me that I hear